First half 2021 net profit up by 94%. Fifth consecutive record for AUA. Now, if you look at iFAST on the headlines, you realize that many are mentioning beautiful things about it, firing on all cylinders. UOB Kay Hian and DBS Research upping the target price for iFAST. But on the other hand, if you look in terms of charts, what has happened? Market has actually sold out iFAST, correct? This was before iFAST released its latest results, which is on 23rd of July. And what do you realize? It's dropped more than 10%, correct? So what's going on? Today I'll give you my insights, my take on things. And if you stay towards the end of the video, I'll be sharing with you my thoughts on the Malaysian Digital Bank. Because iFAST, the run-up of it has a lot to do with this anticipated Malaysian Digital Bank. So if you're keen to find out my dark horse for the race, continue watching on. Hi guys, welcome back. Now, if you're new to iFAST, let me introduce you how to understand its business. You realize that Singapore constitutes 69.5% of all business, correct? Singapore is the home ground where they first build up the business foothold. And with the profits here, they've been investing and growing the regional businesses. So in addition, iFAST makes a lot of money from unit trust sales, and in addition, trailer fees, rep fees from unit trust itself. So iFAST is a very beautiful business. It has a lot of recurring income. On the B2C front, iFAST also owns FSMOne. So FSMOne now has stock brokerage. It is indeed one of the more competitive platforms in the market. Now back to the point on geography. Singapore and Malaysia's pie in terms of the contribution has grown slightly in this first half. The Hong Kong portion has stagnated a bit, but Hong Kong is where future potential growth lies at because of this news over here. You realize that iFAST has actually won the Hong Kong EMPF project. And EMPF is simply their pension plan, similar to CPF if you can imagine. So iFAST will build up the infrastructure. It could possibly attract in a lot of AUA down the years. With that, let's look at the latest numbers together. You realize over here that first half seems to be doing quite well, correct? In terms of recurring net revenue, it seems to be on pace to set a new record. In terms of non-recurring net revenue, also on pace to set a new record. Non-recurring means sales charges that they make brokerage charges. Recurring typically is the rep fee, the trailer fee that they earn. And since unit trust is a big component of revenue, let's pull up this also for you to see. This is where we can measure the net inflow and gross unit trust subscription. If you measure first half year-on-year growth, you realize it's almost 80% gain. So that really looks like fantastic result, right? But in the next part, I'll actually show you some minute details as to what's causing market to be slightly concerned. And before that, invite you to smash the like button early. I'm filming this right now after work and it's taking our team quite a few hours to produce this content for you. And also look for the join buttons below because iFAST is a company I cover quite closely on our private investor member channel. One of the key reasons as to why iFAST's share price may have dropped could be attributed to this. Let me pull out for you the profit and loss geographical segment of things. What do you realize in this presentation over here? If you look at the right hand side, year-on-year change, everything looks rosy. 30% gain, 40% gain year-on-year for each and every key segment. And in terms of the net profit after tax, 94% gain year-on-year. But I want you to scrutinize on things a bit deeper with me. If you look in terms of first half 2021, you realize that net profit after tax is 15.84 million, correct? And if we were to pull out just second quarter, you realize that the net profit after tax is 7.02. And what does that tell you? That tells you that first quarter was actually at 8.82 million, correct? And that means the profit has actually declined slightly from first quarter to second quarter, the profit levels. And if you scrutinize to each and every key segment, Singapore also, they did better in first quarter. Hong Kong, about flat. Malaysia did better in first quarter. So most major segments have done better in first quarter than second quarter, which means the profit levels for iFAST may have peaked in first quarter. That is a quick conclusion, but we don't know what is going to happen for third and fourth quarter. If market continues to do well, it could surpass. But iFAST being a stock right now that carries a high price to earnings ratio, there's a lot of market anticipation for it to deliver continuously strong growth. And any sign of interruption to that growth naturally brings a recalibration phase, which means market is deciding what is the fair price for iFAST. Should it be lower or higher? It's not a big discussion. But for myself, I've been placing a lot of business with iFAST. If you work with me as a private client, you do know that I do clock a lot of my sales through iFAST itself. I'm a believer of their technology. they have actually very good user interface. So I've actually clocked more than 1 million in terms of year-to-date sales, in terms of placement. So I'm a big contributor to the business, but yet Singapore's second quarter was actually slower than first quarter. So that's regarding profits. So if we were to pull up the revenue comparison between first quarter and second quarter, you realize that that trend is still true. First quarter was definitely a better quarter than second quarter itself. For revenue, first quarter was at 55.34 million, but in total for the first half, it's at 106.12 million, which means the second quarter only clocked 51 million thereabouts. So it's not just bottom line, top line has also slowed. So moving forward, we should track whether Hong Kong can really develop and bring more AUA to the business itself, and more importantly, this opportunity that iFAST is pursuing in Malaysia, which is the Malaysian Digital Bank. I'll firstly pull up a report by PwC, which I'll leave links below just in case you're curious to find out more for yourself. What we can learn is the Malaysian Central Bank would likely issue up to 5 new digital bank licenses, similar to Singapore. And acceptance of applications have already commenced. iFAST has submitted theirs as of June 2021. In PwC's view, they believe that the digital bank has only 5 years to prove that its business model is viable. And this is the list of consortiums that are joining in this bid. Quite a number, correct? And what we can see over there is iFAST has roped in 2 Chinese partners as well as 2 Malaysian partners. One of which is pretty interesting, which is this company over here, 99 Speedmart, and its founder, Mr. Lee Tianhua. So Mr. Lee has a very interesting story. I want to dig up a bit because I was quite curious about his background. And he's the owner of 99 Speedmart, which has more than 1,000 outlets across Malaysia. He has been disabled almost since birth, and yet that has not dampened his entrepreneurial spirit. So that's pretty admirable. With any bid, there needs to be local partners, and he will be the local partner fronting this consortium, but iFAST seems to have the majority share of things. So the key question is, what are the odds of winning this thing? So I actually looked through the thing, and these are my findings itself. I believe the clear favorite is, of course, again, GRAB+SINGTEL. When it came to distributing the COVID cash, Grab was a key partner of the government. So I do believe that Grab has very strong ties and working relationship with the Malaysian government. And I do think, in my opinion, they are the clear favorite. So if there are 5, I certainly think that they would win one of it. And then who else may be in front of iFAST? Perhaps Genting. Genting, as we know, owns not only the casino, they have plantations, they have oil and gas, they have so many diversified businesses all over Malaysia. So Genting is, of course, a very strategic company to Malaysia itself. But they are not my dark horse for this race itself. My dark horse is actually Mr. Tony Fernandez's business, which is actually Airasia. Now, Airasia actually owns bigpay. And I actually read this book before for Mr. Tony Fernandez. And in his book, he did share that he actually had to speak to Mr. Mahathir, he had to speak to the Malaysian government to get certain special approvals for his airline business. So I'm sure he has deep connections with the Malaysian government. And he has actually now recently brought in a new partner, SK Group, which is the 3rd largest conglomerate in South Korea. Now that definitely gives it a lot more credibility because Korea was actually a very early adopter of the digital bank. If we were to pull up this by PwC, you realize that there are many countries that have gone through digital bank, and the mature markets are only a few: UK, Germany, China, and South Korea. South Korea has 2 digital banks, K-Bank and Kakao Bank. So SK Group could learn what has happened in South Korea and actually implement some things together with bigpay owned by Airasia, and they could develop something very special for the Malaysian market. So in my opinion, they could also snag one of the 5 licenses. And beyond that, I do think iFAST has a good shot at things because these are my 3 ahead of them and there's no one else, which means I hope that iFAST do get that license. So back to the point on South Korea's digital bank, I have actually a previous presentation where I deep dive into Kakao Bank itself, how it grew as a digital bank in South Korea. So if you haven't seen the presentation, let me invite you there. That was touching on how would the digital bank actually impact our traditional banks. So if you're keen on our local banks or the story on Kakao Bank, look for this presentation and I'll actually sign off from here and see you there. Take care and goodbye.